And about that time, Freddie Johnson and Larry Schwandes came along and they said, we've got this idea for a green cemetery, which had also, and they heard that I had been involved in one earlier that didn't succeed. So I said, well, here's a perfect piece of land for it. It needs restoration. It's not like you're going into a pristine area and digging a bunch of holes. This was actually, had a graze line where it had been overgrazed. There was almost no understory. A woman named Kathy Cantwell, Dr. Kathy Cantwell, was a well-known environmentalist who had cancer that was progressing. And she knew she was going to die. And she said, I want to be buried in a green cemetery. I've been an environmentalist all my life. You guys get your act together and get this green cemetery properly set up and certified. And so that was the motivation for us. And I remember making the phone call to Kathy saying, Kathy, we've got everything we need. And she died the next week.
I'm Heather Grove, Executive Director at Prairie Creek Conservation Cemetery. I am here leading the future of this organization as we continue to expand and accommodate the growing demand for natural burial. I'm really looking into, the active restoration of our current land, expansion within this preserve and beyond, while managing the operations day-to-day of, our operations crew that carry out burials and site selections and digging. There's a lot of volunteer management that they coordinate. There's lots of different types of people that choose natural burial, and there's lots of people that find themselves in the cemetery not even knowing it's a cemetery because they're drawn to nature, and especially this area is an old slice of Florida with the big live oaks and hanging moss that's just a very comforting place to be in. And so whether somebody's grieving a recent loss of a loved one or just wanting to be in a green space, I think a lot of folks find themselves here just wanting that comfort.
Hello, my name is Mo. I've been a volunteer with Prairie Creek since 2021, and I've been participating in both the digging side and the burial side. Well, my partner Larry, he's buried here. He passed away in January of 2024 and was buried early February, and so that's probably a way for me to come out here and connect with him. I mean, I visit him also whenever I want, but just to be out here honoring another life that has had presence and their light and what they've contributed, I think it just gives me more meaning to life itself.
Where have all the young girls gone? Long time passing. Where have all the young girls gone?
Almost pretty much, yeah. I did some too. I noticed you were doing it, but I was like, thank you.
And every time I come out to visit him, I can just sense that this is a place where he's very happy. Sometimes there's a little bit of surprise, oh, you dig graves, or what does that mean? But I think a lot of people, it's becoming more, I think, out there, and people are wanting a different choice. you know, we're getting more into cities and we're in cities all the time. We're not that connected. And so once you come out here, you just feel the calmness and the beauty. And so there's that real, I think, feeling that this is a place where I might want to be buried someday.
Well, the first thing about green burial is there's lots of alternatives. There's embalming, there's cremation, there's fancy ways of dissolving bodies and composting, all that. But what's interesting about what Mother Nature gave us was the perfect way to decompose without adding anything, just relatively shallow in the dirt. Our graves are only 42 inches deep. There's enough water, there's enough air, there's the right combination of things that the bodies decompose very quickly. And you know that because what starts off as a mound today that's a couple feet high at least, within 5 years is level to the ground. So everything is recompacted, and the fact that we preserve the topsoil, put it back on top, the natural plants and stuff come back. And so this is the way to return to the environment. All the other ways take energy or take effort or create pollution, and this is the one that really works. So I would say for people that wonder about this, or it's a little too earthy or gritty for them, this is the way that burials have been done throughout human history. And it was only relatively recently in our history that we started pickling bodies and burning them and stuff like that.
My name is Bobby Starker. I am a member of North Florida Search Team. This is my canine partner, Trenton Forrest. We call him Trent, and he is a human remains detection specialist. Down, boy, down. Heather was nice enough to allow us to train here about a year ago, a little over a year ago, to see how our dogs would react around fresh grave sites to grave sites a few years old to very old grave sites. Though our dogs and ourselves occupy the same space, we literally live in two different worlds. And what we're looking for is what's known as a change of behavior. Come on, follow me. He's got his nose up, you see that? And he runs like this. He's getting scent of something. Around these older grave sites, we happened to notice where they were kind of hitting on the trees and the fauna around these older graves. And it wasn't necessarily an alert, which is what what we're looking for if we're actually on a search, but it was definitely a change in behavior that we all kind of noticed and took note of. Hey, 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 hey. You ready? You ready? Search! You gotta keep up. What do you got? What you got, boy? Come on, buddy. Let's work. Let's work. See, you got one over there. You got one right there. See where the tape is? You see where his nose went up on the trees? Okay. See where that tape is? Yeah. There you go, buddy. So in my opinion, he is scenting what has already decomposed into the ground, and it's coming up through the roots of these trees and these plants. To be that interested in that one spot. See how he's circling it around? Perfect, perfect. So we truly are ashes to ashes and dust to dust.
There's so many stories and just so many beautiful moments. At one burial, there was a sister who stood up to talk about her brother, and she had drawn a picture of a tree of life, and was referencing this drawing that she had done, and she just stood up. He had been there shrouded, laying in the grave for about 30 minutes before she got up to speak. And when she finally did, she mentioned the drawing, and a big gust of wind came and picked up the drawing and literally blew it right in front of her, and she just reached out and grabbed it. And there was this audible gasp by everybody that was there. And it's moments like that that, you know, sometimes they're not as obvious. Sometimes it's a dragonfly that's quietly sitting behind everybody at a burial that doesn't move. Sometimes, you know, it's just the way the light just shines down on a grave the moment the marker is placed, and it stays there while everybody just gathers around in awe. But for me, you know, one of the takeaways is just continuing to stay open to the beauty and that magic. You know, whatever religion, spirituality people have, this place is full of it if you're open to seeing it.
I was a mercenary about protecting land. How can we make some money to buy more land? And this was just another way to do it. At least that's how I early on thought about it. We get a couple $1,000 from a family, they bury their loved one, we get to conserve a little more land, and indeed this cemetery has managed to buy the land next door with the proceeds from burials. But what I didn't realize is that when somebody buries a loved one here and is active in the process, it creates a connection to the land and the landscape that is much more profound than the impact of their couple $1,000 that went into land conservation. So I've got both of my parents buried here, my son, my favorite dog, and hundreds of people that I know, many of whom are close friends. We have an active group of people who come back and are stewarding the land and taking care of it in ways that will soon, this will be the ultimate wildflower garden in the state. And it's being done one burial plot at a time. One of the interesting conversations that happened out here was, how dense do we put the bodies out here? And because we could put a lot more out here, obviously. And my side of the argument was, we're thinking about this all wrong. It's not how many bodies can we get on this finite piece of land. It's how far and wide we can spread them thinly across the environment, because wherever you plant bodies becomes sacred burial grounds. This area is protected way more than the other conservation lands and stuff that right now you hear federal officials, state officials, and others who say, well, we could start selling off some of this stuff. Nobody's ever going to sell this place, because look at all the families that have invested in it in the most sacred way that they can think of. So, in my opinion, any group that wants to protect the most special place in their community ought to start planting bodies there and doing it just far enough apart where nobody can do anything in between. So if we were planting 1 per acre or 2 per acre, I think that would be the ultimate solution, as opposed to, you know, maybe 50 or 100 per acre in a place like this. We're wasting bodies on too tight an area. We should be spreading them out.